everyone, welcome back to Feather Stitch House. My name's Rebecca and each week on this channel I upload videos about embroidery and textile art to help you get creative. Now this isn't how my videos normally start. I'm out and about in my village. There's a little bit of woodland near my home and I thought it would be nice to come out and have a bit of a walk around and go on a bit of a hunt. We're looking for mushrooms. It's prime mushroom season. Some have already sprouted in my garden and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a little while. But I thought we would go out and see what else we can find in my village. So I'll show you the woodland and let's go. So there are some cars nearby. There's a road just next to the woodland entrance and I thought we would just have a little wander through. It's really popular with dog walkers and it's just a lovely place to go for a bit of a wander. So let's go and see what we can find. I think the people that manage it are starting to encourage fungi. So we've got some fallen tree logs. I can't see anything growing on them at the moment. They've just been kind of left so that nature can take its course. Now I do know something quite special along here. If we walk down here a little way, there's some telltale signs on the ground. So over here, some black lumps, and they have come from right up there. Now, I don't know if you can see over here, that is an enormous bracket fungus that has grown on the tree. It's maybe birds landed on it and some bits have broken off. Not sure what kind of fungus it is, but it's absolutely huge, like dinner plate size. It's quite high up and little bits of it have broken off and landed on the floor. There's a little den that somebody's put together with a tree stump on it. And I did see some cyclamen over. Look what I can see. Two little mushrooms just sprouting. Now I came through here the other day and they weren't there. So they're just coming through. And over here there are some cyclamen just starting to peek through. Bit of hawthorn there, look. Lovely berries. Just starting to turn, leaves are going yellow. It's only small. And you can probably still hear the cars on the road, so you never feel really remote. But it's just a lovely way to just get into some nature, really close to my house. I'll double check this, but I think they're called stinky bob geraniums. I've got no idea why. Got some of those peeking through. Oh, there's a big patch of them here, look. And there's still some blackberries in the bushes. Lots of brambles. It's a little nature haven. Look at these over here. Some still not quite ripe there. Looks like a good crop this year. A bit late now. Lots of them have sort of shriveled up. There's a teeny tiny baby horse chestnut there that's just being encouraged. Somebody's having some work done. This was a crop and a half of blackberries. They're all past their best now, but see how many there are on that bush, and some flowers just starting. Weird. And here is a little apple tree, look. A couple of apples. That may have been somebody's discarded apple core. I do see lots of apple trees like the size of roads these days, where I guess people have chucked an apple core out of their window. Some lords and ladies just coming through, just quite by the road now. It's an A road. Aha! I have struck gold. Mushroom gold, look. There we go. So this is just a tree stump growing outside. And there is a gorgeous crop of fungi there, look. Living its best life. And I thought I was going mad, but I was quite right. I have identified it with my identification app. These are hops just growing alongside a path. So one could come and do a bit of harvesting and really sell some beer. There's a massive crop of them, look. They go all the way down there. How fabulous is that? And we've got tons of lichen on this tree. Lots of flies as well, but lichen in abundance. All the flies munching away at it. There we go. So beautiful. Look at that. Look. That looks like elderberries. Maybe. There's loads of them. Okay. And we've got some more here. Another tree stump crop there. And come around here, got something different growing in bits, look. Now my front garden used to have loads and loads of massive conifer trees, and when the previous owners of the house were trying to sell, I think they were advised by the estate agent to get rid of the trees, which they did. And so underneath my front garden is a network of roots that will take years and years to decompose. Because we've got tree roots underneath the ground that are gradually decomposing, at the beginning of October every year we get some visitors in our garden, and they seem to appear overnight. They come out of nowhere and they just make their presence very much felt, and that is fungi. And I love a bit of fungus spotting whenever we go out and about for walks in the woods or whatever, and I have seen some fairly spectacular fungi, bracket fungi, and a year or so ago I saw my first in the flesh, in real life, fly agaric mushroom up in Kielder Forest Park in Northumberland, and one of the most exciting moments of my life. Now, I have stitched mushrooms before and this was I think it's my most liked post ever on Instagram. It went absolutely berserk a couple of years ago. I made this with Anne Brooks' 52 Flags project back in 2023, I think that project ran, and she did a mushroom, and so I thought I would I can't remember what type of mushroom this is based on, but that was mine. Let me bring it up a bit closer. And I used some selvage there from some linen to create the little skirt, and then we created some mulchy undergrowth, and I put some shading on with just some really simple stitch. This is done in a similar way to the way we did the portrait, where you lay a background and stitch over the top, and then I added some French knots for the little water bits. It's very textural. But we also did some mushrooms back in 2022 as well. This was the November page, which was earth tones and fill stitches. This was our mushrooms panel, fungi. The template for this is still available. It is small though, it's designed for this size of panel. So if you don't feel confident drawing your mushrooms, you can always download that template and maybe enlarge it if you want to. So again, overstitched fabrics. I used Japanese yarn dye. The colour theme was earth tones, and then we fill stitched the stems of the mushrooms using a bit of silk shading, really simple silk shading, and then we created the little mushrooms with a bit of couching, I think that is, and a bit of satin stitch, and then created our mulchy undergrowth. That's where I'm heading. So today we're going to create our background. That's quite a lengthy introduction, but we're going to create our background, and what I've done as a starting point is dug through my scraps bin for anything mulchy looking, and this is what I've pulled out. So I've just got scraps of, this was a bit of netting off a bag of easy peelers and it's like string, and that's meshed together into a net, and I thought it just was a nice texture, so I've got a few of those. I've got offcuts of bits of tweed, I've got some linen, I've got these orangey bits, I've got some Japanese yarn dye, then I've got this spotty sort of sappy green fabric, bits of felt. I've got this lovely paisley fabric that's earthy, bit of gold. That's the inside of my pond from the garden quilt from 2023. Just bits of selvage, this bit of upholstery fabric, some sari silk ribbon, just oranges and browns. There's a bit of offcut of some spider's web there. There's all sorts in there, and I've also been through my tweed stash. I've got these lovely sort of bits of earthy tweed, and one of the best and worst things about tweed is its capacity for fraying. So you can see this just shredding, but if you're wanting to create like a sense of leaf litter, that's really lovely, and you've got some really textural ones as well. So this one I think it's so textural, just really lovely. This is what I used on the background of that mushroom, same fabric, scrap of that one there. What I'm looking for are textured fabrics that are in these earthy tones, cosy things, because it's the time for coziness, isn't it? October. The clocks are going to go back for us in the UK. I don't know whether other countries do daylight saving like we do, but our clocks are going to go back, so our mornings will get a little bit lighter, but the evenings will draw in. It's the time where we put the heating on if we haven't already done so, because it's just been cold all year in the UK. And so I just thought we'd go cosy, earthy and warm, and we're going to start by creating a sort of forest floor background for our mushrooms to sit on. If you haven't got tweed, felt would work really well. So if you've got some earthy tones of felt, I'm going to bring felt in a little bit later, but this is the kind of thing that you're going to need. And I'm just going to use some machine thread today to create that background. So I'm going to get my backing piece and get ready to stitch. Okay, here we go. So I've got my backing piece, I've got my wadding, and I've marked out my sort of space that's going to be on show, and that is 16 centimeters deep by 24 centimeters wide. And I've just tacked together the batting and the bit of old sheet that I'm using. And so what I'm going to do now is create my background. I'm still struggling with my puncture wound, so I'm rather annoyingly using a thimble. I don't like it. It sticks to everything. It does help me grip, but it sticks to everything. So what I want to do is create something like leaf litter, and I'm just going to put some scraps. Whenever I've got a bit of texture, I'm going to leave it on show, and I'm just going to lay some scraps down. If you wanted to, you could cut these into leaf shapes. I may overlay some leaves, and I'm going to leave crumples in. So I haven't ironed these at all. I'm going to leave any crumples in. I'm going to leave texture in. Oh look, that wants to twist there, so I'm just going to leave that as it is. Got a little bit of kind of knitted fabric here. I wonder if that's a bit pale. Let's pop that down. I think it's going to be, we'll cover a lot of that up. I wonder if that's too bright. Got a nice regular piece here. I wonder whether we can cut a leaf shape out of that. Just really roughly done. Like that, and that can sit over the top. So every now and again we can add in a leaf shape. I'm not thinking too much about this, but I do kind of want to balance colours. So I've got a bit of orange there, a bit of orange there. Maybe I put a bit of orange down at the bottom. I can pop that bit over there, and I've got another piece here that appears to have some sort of tacking stitches in it for no reason I can account for. Let's pop that on. That can, maybe I want that over the top like that. So we're just being a bit haphazard. We've got a little bit of fluffy thread on this piece, so let's leave that in. Pop that in there. So we're just scattering, and if you want to, you can use any corners. This bit of a charm pack, I think. You can use any corners to go into the corners of your panel. This is a nice sappy green piece, but I don't like how regular it is. Let's create a bit of texture from it. You can have that cutting across that corner there, maybe overlapping the orange. I don't use orange very much. Now this is a little bit of fabric that was in a bag that I was donated. It was gifted to me, and somebody had painstakingly cut out loads of hexagons in various fabrics, I guess to make a patchwork quilt. So I just inherited loads of pre-cut hexagons, but I've clearly wanted the colour for the background, but didn't want to get rid of the motif on the fabric, so I've left it in. So as I'm putting these scraps down, I'm starting to look at what colour I need more of. I think more green would be good. things are still growing in October. They don't stop growing until the temperature drops below about 7 degrees. So until it gets colder, we are still going to have green poking through. Right, let's get some of our tweed in. Got a bit of dark brown. I don't really like trying to tear tweed because if you tear it, you're likely to just get a pile of fibres. Just tuck that in. I know it looks like I'm losing my mind. Just randomly putting stuff down. Oh, we've got some more bits of this, look. Some really sort of, these are properly disintegrating. I quite like that little trail. Let's have that. Covering up that orange though. Let's have it going up there and then we can see what else we can put in its place. Got a nice bit of tweed here. You could also use your ort if you've got lots of earthy colours in. If you keep an ort, if you don't know what an ort is, it's all your scrap threads. I have large jars and they basically last me 2 years. And I put things like this in it as well. It's a really nice textural background. I might add those in a bit later. I need something a bit darker down here, I think. Up there. How's that looking? I'm looking at it on the screen. I do like how forest flory it looks. I want a bit of this scrim. Scrim is like a really open hessian. I don't know what it's for. Maybe reinforcing, maybe rag rugging, needle latch hook. What's it called? Latch hook. Maybe it's for that. I don't know, but I like the texture of it. Maybe it needs something dark underneath. Let's put a little bit of this in, just because we've got a little bit of it left. And the scrim will tone it down, but it won't be white underneath. That's better. Right, so we've got quite a mulchy looking ground for our October panel, and I'm happy enough with that. I don't want to think too much about it. We're going to put our mushrooms over the top. Now there's a range of things that you can do here. You can either pin and just put pins all over it. You could use some soluble stabiliser if you want to. I think I'm going to use our tissue paper trick. We looked at this last week. I'm going to lay some tissue paper over the top and I'm going to pin the tissue paper. Right, let me just cut a little bit off because I've got too much here. You could put organza over the top if you want to. I don't have sheets of organza, I just have organza ribbon and I don't want to lose all the colour. Or maybe I do. Hang on a second. Maybe I want to tone it down so our mushrooms stand out more. Oh, we don't lose a lot from that, do we? Maybe that's the answer. I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to go with inspiration. And let's just go for it. So let me get some pins. So this is just wide floral ribbon, organza ribbon, and I'm just going to put pins periodically to hold it in place, and then that's what it is, chiffon ribbon in ivory, 20 metres if you need to find it, but you could get a sheet of organza as well. I don't want too much overlap. So I suppose this is a little bit like crumb quilting. You could use netting if you have some netting, if you have like a laundry bag that you are happy to sacrifice for the sake of textile art. You could use that. You can see I'm just pinning randomly through all the layers, and that's just going to hold things in place just enough. That's all we're after at this point. Trim that off. I reckon 3 is going to do it. So again, I don't want tons of overlap. This is the same ribbon that we created our water with in January for our flooded fields. It creates a kind of misty feel. I quite like it. And I think we can stitch over the top. We can applique our fungi on over the top, and because we've made it that little bit more subtle, I think our fungi is going to stand out a bit better. Right, I've just got some normal machine thread. Let's clear some of these bits and bobs out of the way. Just some normal machine thread. It's the same, it's a dark brown, it's the same as what I tacked around my frame with, and I'm going to just put in some tacking stitches. Now I don't mind these tacking stitches showing, they're going to show, and they're going to be in kind of random directions. So what I'm going to do is just put some random stitches across the surface. Now if you're doing this with fusible webbing, you could do this on a machine, or soluble webbing. You lay your webbing over the top and you'd put it through a machine and just add machine stitch. But I'm just going to, this is kind of like a giant seed stitch that I'm doing here. I just want to make sure that there are stitches on every single piece of fabric that I've put down. So if you want to run it through a machine and do a bit of free motion on the top, you can do that. If you want your stitches to be a little bit more stylish and formal, you can do that as well. If you're working on tissue paper, the same principle that we used last week would apply. So if you put enough stitches down, once you're happy that all your pieces are secured to the background, you can then tear the tissue paper away. You could, what else could you use? I mean, you could tear the organza away if you wanted to, but I'm not going to. So just large seed stitches right across the panel to hold all these little crumbs of fabric in place, and you can use crumbs that are much smaller than mine. You could do much bigger, you could cut leaf shapes if you want to. There's a million and one ways that you can create your forest floor. And you can see I'm just kind of working my way around. I'm trying not to move things too much. I've got a little bit of movement there. I don't want any bright white showing through, so if I have movement that's going to reveal bright white underneath, I will just shuffle it back. I quite like the strips of ribbon, because there are spaces where I can get my finger underneath just to manoeuvre things back. I like our misty forest floor. I think it's actually worked. What does Bob Ross call it? Happy accident. We are in autumn, season of mist and mellow fruitfulness. I used to really hate that poem, and then I looked at it more and actually think it's very, very clever. And the poet, whose name has just gone out of my head, but it'll come back to me in a second, had discovered that he was terminally ill when he wrote it. He wrote it just not long before his death. I think he had TB, and so it's not entirely about autumn. It's about the end of life, and so it starts. I think, well, it's a multi-layered poem. So the first verse of the poem, season of mist and mellow fruitfulness. Do you know, when I started this, I didn't think I was going to be doing a poetry lesson, but here we go. Enjoy or fast forward. It's entirely up to you. So the first verse of the poem, I think, really is about September, which is all about fruit and apples and everything being golden and lush, and then gradually the tone changes as you go through the poem. So it's 3 stanzas, which I think are the 3 months of autumn. Other interpretations are available. The second stanza is all about October, and it's what you do with all that produce that you've gathered in. So it's all about cider making, and summer really going to sleep. And then the last stanza is November, and it's a lot sadder and more mournful, and it's all about sounds. So you've got stanza 1 is about the sights of autumn, and stanza 2, stanza verse, however you want to put it, is about the activity of autumn, and then the last stanza is all about the sounds of autumn. So you get the robin coming in at the end, and there's a definite feeling that winter is very, very close, and it's symbolic of his end of life that he was facing. So it's a really beautiful poem, as it turns out. Keats. There you go. I knew it had come to me. Or perimenopause. Can't live with it. Can't live without it. So yeah, I'd always written off the romantics as being just, it's all about wandering lonely as a cloud and all that jazz. But actually, when you explore it properly, with an open heart, I think the romantics appeal more as you get older as well, because they're so reflective and so nostalgic, and they spend a lot of time looking back on childhood and thinking about how they got to where they are. And I think you do that a lot more as you get older. When you're younger, you're just living your life, aren't you? And you never really think about your own mortality because you're young and you don't need to. But as the significant birthdays come and go, and as you go through changes and transitions and your kids leave home and you approach retirement and things like that, I think nostalgia becomes a much more significant. Is it an emotion? I suppose it is. Much more significant emotion. Oh, autumn philosophy with Feather Stitch House. I do apologise. I don't really. Um, but I think that's the end of our poetry lesson. So you get the idea. I can't make you watch me seed stitch over this whole panel. That's more than anyone should be expected to do. So you get the idea of what I'm doing. I'm going to stitch right across this, make sure everything's secure, and then we'll come back. Right, I have stitched everything down and it never looks quite right. I do really like it. I think as a series of accidents with scraps, I think this is going to work really well for what we're going to create this month. If you are troubled, can I recommend the aperture trick, because suddenly you get much more of a sense of what this is going to look like as a background. So now when we applique some things onto this, it's going to be a lot more subtle and they're going to stand out a lot better. So we've got our, I think I've turned it upside down in the process. I think it was that way up, not that it matters. So I think we're going to leave it there this week. We've created our sort of crumb quilt style background. So that's mine. Looking forward to seeing yours. If you want to share, do tag me in any posts on social media and then I'm likely to see what you've created. So if you use the tag at Feather Stitch House, and that means I'll get a little notification to say I've been tagged. If you want to share on Instagram, you can use hashtag FSHWingingIt24 and that pulls all of our posts together into one place and we can see each other's work. Or there is the private Facebook group which you can join using the link below. Don't forget to answer the questions just to make sure I approve your sort of request to join. It's just group rules, just so that everything stays lovely and happy in there. Have loads of fun with your scraps, creating your forest floor. Try and be as ingenious as you can with how you attach them down, and I will see you next week for the fun bit, which is our mushrooms. Not that this hasn't been fun, but yeah, I will see you next week to create some fungi. So have a great week and I'll see you very soon. Bye.